Ready to work, okay? Have your packet out, ready? So today we are going to be solving quadratics by factoring. Can everybody see my page? Can y'all see it? Yes, okay. So earlier in the week, we were looking at quadratics. If you don't have this form down, write it down. When I talk about the A, the B, and the C, you have a pencil? Yeah, you have a pencil? Oh. Write down ax plus b squared, ax squared plus bx plus c, or box it in, equals to 0. Notice it has an equals to 0. I noticed a couple of weeks ago when we were factoring and y'all saw that equals to 0. It was a mistake then. But whenever you see it now, that means that we have to solve, okay? So first, we're going to take that, make sure it's equal to 0, then factor it. So get our two parentheses for factoring. You remember that? And then we're going to take each one, take it out of the parentheses, and solve each one. Do y'all remember how to solve? Solve for x? Yes, from middle school? Okay. So first things first, like a recap of what we have to do to factor. Remember, we cannot solve when it's x squared. We have to have a times c. So multiply your a times your c value. Find what numbers, multiply to give you a times c. Then we're going to, once we get those numbers, we're going to see which two numbers add up to be b. And then once you have your two factors, we're going to solve, okay? So let's go ahead and start with our first example. So this one right here, if you don't have the packet, write it down. Notice how it already is set up with equals to 0, so we do not need to rearrange anything. Now our first step is to factor. So we're gonna bring down two parentheses. What do we drop down in each parenthesis? What do we drop down? X and X, good job. What's our first sign gonna be? Addition, and a negative times a what gives you a negative? Or a positive times a what gives you a negative? So we're going to have a negative sign right there. So now we have our factor set up. Now we just need to multiply your a times your c. So a, b, and c. We're going to multiply our a value times our c, which is 6 times negative 1. What do you get when you take 6 times negative 1? What are all the factors that give you negative 6?
1, 8, 2, 3.
And once we repeat, we stop. Now, since we have opposite signs, remember which number goes here, the bigger number or the smaller? Bigger. So that means all of our little numbers are negative. So make those two negative. And we're going to see which two add up to b. What is our b value? Positive 1. So which two numbers, when you add them together, which two pairs give you 1? Is it negative 1 and 6 or negative 2 and 3? Negative 2 and 3, good job. And since 3 is positive, it goes here. And 2 is negative, goes here. Again, we're setting it equal to 0. Is that it? Are we done factoring?
No.
One more step. What is it?
Stop for 8.
Divide. What do we got to divide by?
3.
Divide by, what is our a value? 6. So divide each one by 6. And these are factors here. So 3 divided by 6. What can 3 and 6 divide by? What can both of them divide by? You can divide 3 by 3, right? So 3 divided by 3? 1. 6 divided by 3? 2. So we get 1/2. So I'm going to drop the parentheses now, just to save us an extra step. You're going to have x plus 1/2 equals 0. Okay? Now let's look at the next one. So I just reduced it and brought it down. Okay? Now let's look at the next one. I'm just going to look at the fraction. 2 over 6. What can they both reduce by? What number? 2, but you're telling me the answer, right? It gives you 1 and 3. Good job. So then when we come down, it's going to be x minus 1/3 equals 0. Okay? So once you're starting to solve, you can get rid of the parentheses and solve. So on the first one, so remember, if you're going to go over the fence to your neighbor's house, the opposite of going up, how do you got to get down? Do you go more up? No, you come down, right? Like you climb down or you jump down, but you got to do the opposite, right? Same thing with solving. If this is plus on this side of the equal sign, think of the equals as your fence. What do you got to do to get to the other side? Subtract it. So subtract it. Subtract. These two cancel. So x is equal to -1/2. And then over here, this one is -1/3 on this side. So to go over the fence, you have to add it. So these two cancel and x is equal to 1/3. Tell your grandma to stop texting you. Okay, these two are our answers. So we have -1/2 and +1/3. How can we check if we're correct? Huh? Desmos. So if you graph it, you have to type in y equals the equation. Do not type in =0. Then go over here to the x-intercepts because that's what we're finding here, where it touches the x-axis. -0.5. Is that the same thing as -1/2?
Oh, yeah.
And then if we look at 0.333, is that the same thing as 1/3? Yes, right? So we did it correctly. Okay. Any questions on this first example? So factor, then set equal to 0 and solve.
We gotta do that assignment, right?
Not yet? Nope. Okay. Next one. Do we need to rearrange it? Hurry up and do it. Do we need to rearrange it? No, right? It's already set equal to 0. So now let's factor it. Drop your parentheses. Drop your x's. The first sign comes down. It's a positive. Now a positive times a what gives you a positive? Positive. So just remember, if they're both plus, then your two signs in your factors are plus. Okay? So now we did that. What's our next step after we bring down the signs? What do we do next? Very good. A times C, so 2 times 6.
Why'd you whisper?
2 times 6 is 12. What are our factors of 12?
1, 2.
1, 12, 2 and 6. 3 and 4, good job, and 4 and 3. And they're all positive, so no sign changes. Our B is equal to, Alexa, what's our B equal to? A, B, C. What's our B? 7, very good. So which two numbers add up to be 7, Heather? We're looking at, your name's Heather, right? Which two add up to be 7? 3 and 4, so those are our lucky numbers. Always put the bigger number first, so drop the 4 and then the 3. And Kylie, what's our last step? Divide by 2, very good. So 4/2, what does that give us, Elena? 2, so I'm just gonna bring down x plus 2 equals 0. Angel, can we reduce 3/2? 3/2, does that reduce?
No.
Nope, so just drop it down and set equal to 0. Alexis, what are we going to do on the first one to solve for 0? So what do we do here to get x by itself? It says x plus 2. Subtract 2 to both sides. So x equals -2. And then Jason, this second one, x plus 3 over 2. What do we do to move it to the other side? Opposite of plus. Subtract. So our answer is x equals -3 over 2. And those are our 2 answers. Any questions? No? Okay. So before we move on, I want y'all, I'm just going to do one more thing just to show you in case you see something like this. So remember before I would tell y'all, okay, if we're just factoring, and especially for those of you that haven't taken the test yet, we would move this number to the front, right? The reason I'm not doing that right now is because I'm trying to save you an extra step. If we were to do that, that would come out to be 2x plus 3 equals 0. And to solve for x, we would subtract 3 to the other side, and then have 2x equals -3, and divide by 2. Now, when we do that, does that change our answer right here? It's still the same answer, right? So nothing changes. So only do this if they give it to you like this. You're going to add or subtract and then divide. But if you're factoring it, just leave it as a fraction and then move it to the other side. Okay? Next one. So this one right here is a little different. So again, if you don't have the packet, make sure you write it down. That's a 2 right there. Now, we do need to do the rearrange to be 0. Since the 6 is on the other side, we're going to move it over. So what do we need to do to the 6 to move it over? It's a positive on this side, so what do we need to make it? A negative, so we're going to subtract it. So -6 to the other side, and we end up with x squared minus x minus 6. I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 for our numbers if there's not a number. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up the factors. 2 parentheses, our x's. What's the first sign going to be?
Negative.
And a negative times a what gives you a negative? A positive. Now your A times your C. We said 1 times 6, which is 6. Thank you. So what numbers give you 6? 1 and 6. I think we did this number, right? 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. But one number is going to be negative. Which number did we say goes here always? The bigger or the smaller? Bigger. So the bigger numbers become negative. And what number are we looking for? What's our B value? -1. So which 2 numbers, when you add them together, give you -1? And 3 is negative, 2 is positive. Do we need to divide by A here? Our A value is 1, so does that change anything? Nope. So let's just leave it like that. Set it equal to 0. So now we're going to take each one out of the parentheses, set them equal to 0, and solve for x. So on the first one, opposite of subtracting 3, add 3. So x is equal to 3. And then this one over here, to get x by itself, subtract 2. X is equal to -2. And those are our solutions. Remember, we could also call these roots. We could call them zeros. Yeah, so when they're asking for the roots, the zeros, the solutions, the x-intercepts, that is your answer. That's why we remembered rocks. Okay. Up here is our factors. Now, does anybody notice a pattern between the factors and the roots or the solutions? Just look at these two. Is there a pattern here?
Yeah, the signs change.
The only thing that's different is the sign change, right? So think about if it's attached to your X, it's like an X. They lied to you. That's why they're your X, right? So you always want to do, once you're away from your X, you're doing the opposite of what they told you because they're liars, okay? So when you're attached to your X, you're one sign, and when you're away from them, you're the opposite sign. Make sense? Okay, one last example here. Let's go ahead and rearrange this one. So what are we going to move to the other side? The 4, and the 4 is a constant, so who can we attach it to on the other side with? The 19. So we're going to subtract 4 over and take it over to the 19 since they're both constants. And we get 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. So one last time, let's set up the two factors, x and x. And since both of your signs are plus, what are our two factors going to be? Addition. Plus, 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 plus. Your, and then take your A times your C, 2 times 15, 30. And what are the factors of 30?
130, 250.
One more. 4 doesn't work. 5 and 6, good job. And then 6 and 5, we stop. And since they're both plus, Jackson, what number are we looking for? B, which is 13, good job. Elena, which two add up to be 13? Very good. So let's put the 10 first. The bigger number goes first and the 3 second. Is there one more step left?
Yes.
What's our last step?
Divide by
For factors.
2.
Divide by your A, which is 2.
Yep.
So what does 10 divided by 2 simplify to be?
5.
So I'm just going to bring it down as reduced form. X plus 5 equals 0. And then 3 over 2, does that reduce? Nope. So bring down x plus 3 over 2 equals 0. So just off of the top of your head, the first one, what is the solution going to be?
-5.
-5. And the second one is going to be?
-3.
-3 over 2. But I at least want you to, I want to see this step right here, okay? And then you can move it down to -5 and -3 over 2 if you understand what's happening. For those of you that are still not sure why it becomes -5, we have to subtract it over. And then 0 minus 5 is just -5. Same thing over here. We subtract 3 over 2. So x is equal to -3 over 2. Any questions on that? No? Okay. So we are done with the notes, but you're going to stay logged on to complete your assignment or start on your test.